Hi, welcome back to the logarithmic bow. This is similar to the one that I'm making, and I've reached the part where there's a bar that says half stitch here. Now, although I've put loads of pinholes there, you can actually do this half stitch just from one side to the other without using any pins. This is an example of why it doesn't matter what you do there. The half stitch ground, this little tight bit here, you want it to come very tight, is actually the folds on the back. And the reason that you want it as a tight ground is that you're stitching through there. If you're sewing on little flowers, little buttons, that's your stitch through area. So that's a nice snug area. You're actually going that way and back out rather than crossing them. So they come together and come out at the end. These are your ends. These are the fat bits in between where your actual bow is that you can make 3D if you wish. Right, I've worked most of the way along, and what I'm doing on my final row that I've chosen to have as my final row of pins, I will zoom in on this bit because it is quite... I do apologise for the shaky, but I have got a mobile phone on a stand, so it's not the most stable thing in the world to video with. I've gone along this row of dots here, and you can just see there's a dot left, here and here, and the ones that are coming down here have come very, very close together, so these two are obviously not joined on anywhere, so I'm just simply half stitching, pin, half stitch, and that's my pair there. And with the last one that I've already half stitched, pin, half stitch, and I've counted back from the centre how many up I've decided to bring it together. A lot will depend on the thickness of your thread and how detailed your stitches are, if you've put any extra passives in, because you've got to allow for the thickness of your extra passives to get tight into this bit here. So I've counted down the amount that I've done there and counted back and made myself a note that I've got to start doing the same half stitch, pin, half stitch along this line, and then I'm back into the ground of the actual loop of the bow. Now what I'm doing on this, just wait for it to get back into focus, maybe take it in a little bit. We're not working with the most high-tech material here. I'm not a professional teacher or video maker, so what you see is what you get, I'm afraid. Right, now the passives obviously stay on the outside. I've worked that pair through because I only want one white on the outside. So I am simply going to be going through cloth stitch, obviously, on the passives, leaving those. And I'm just going to put a twist on the worker and half stitch through without any pins everything here. All I'm going to be concentrating on is the pin at each side where the worker will go around. I'm going to take this worker around the existing worker. It will have a white line on one side. Oops, got a bit of a twist up there. A bit too many twists. Half stitch is very forgiving. It tends to blend and shape to whatever profile you're trying to do. So it's my go-to stitch for tricky places. Right, I've gone through all of those. I'm now going to cloth stitch through the passives and cloth stitch through those outer ones. I'm going to pin inside both outer ones. I've got to find that tiny little pin there. There we go. I'm going to take this back through, put my twist on, and then work back. You've got two options there. You can use the two pair edge as I've done on this side with the passives, leaving a pair on the outside. That will give you the white going all the way down the outside. Or you've got on this other side where you use that one on the inside, but for the purposes, considering that this isn't going to be seen, choose whichever method you like. I'm suspecting that this side is the better method. So what I'll do while I'm thinking about it is I'll actually put that one back where it was on the outside. If you've left a piece of work when you're working half stitch and you're thinking, oh no, which one, you can always find it because you're looking for the line that's cutting through everything else. This one will always be a mystery, but you've obviously not used those, so you can push those out of the way. They're not into work. And then the last two, one will come off the previous pair, which is this one, that's your last pair. And this one has worked right across from there. So even though it looks, even if you put them all together like this, look for the line first, isolate that pair, and there's your half stitch worker pair. So you can actually find it again when you're called off for those emergency Amazon deliveries. You come back and you think, oh no, half stitch, where did it go? Cloth stitch through the passives. I'm not putting the twists that usually hold the double edge pair away so that you get that nice open edge, because I want this to be as tight and snug as I can. So I'm actually missing that twist out. Use it in the next pinhole, and as you can see, even though those holes are there underneath, I haven't used them, and it's coming together really nice and snug there. So I'll work backwards and forwards to get to this line here, and at this line here I will be using a pin between every other one, and then they will be in place to start coming out. And then the next section is to be done is where you can go mad. Let me just move these out of the way. Push that up a little bit so you can see, is the belly here. Now, on the bows, this is an old one, this is done in crochet thread, it must have been a very early one that I did, hence the button. This is the bit, that's the bit that we've already made. I used a rose ground for that one, I rather like that. And I must have carried on and done rose ground through the whole area. Obviously not the centre bits, the tight bits. But these bits, as they go around, you're actually working a pattern here and a pattern here. So you can just do a ground on one on the front and do plain on the second half that folds at the back, because that would mean that that pattern at the back actually acted like a foil. It shows off that pattern more than putting double patterns together. It's just an idea. Do rose ground that side, do plain that side, and it will give you more of a exaggerated pattern. But for the time being, I haven't even decided on a pattern. Here's one with, what did I do with this? My word, tiny little tallies. I must have been mad. In stripes. I've obviously not used a half stitch in this. See if we can open this one up. There we go. Oh, yes, and I've used a plain background on that one because there was no, this is the side that's going to be seen. So I was obviously learning tallies at that point. Oh, little tallies on the edges as well, that's pretty. So that's just another two that I found in the files, very squashed, but there you go. Right, so the next bit will be designing this. Hope that helps.